Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV, and I'm the editor here at MetaStellar. And I'm here to talk about the #1 best-selling free science fiction and fantasy book on Amazon today, where a military vet joins the Space Force and is sent to help protect the first human colony. But before we get to that, I have 9 other books to get through on today's top 10 list. You see, every Friday, the team here at MetaStellar reads the first few chapters of every book on Amazon's top 10 list. Today, I was helped by news editor Alex KOROLOV, assistant fiction editor Terrence Smith, and community members Carla Nordlund, NC Nibertovsky, and ROMEL MADRAY. And ROMEL is here with us today. Hi, ROMEL. Thanks for joining me.
Hi, Maria.
So today's list includes a vampire hunter, a college student full of angst about whether or not to date a witch, and a middle-aged librarian who finally lets her magical powers out. The link to the article is in the description box below. For those who are new, MetaStellar is an online magazine of speculative fiction, and all the content is always free to our readers, thanks to the kind support of our Patreon contributors. We love you guys. Thank you. We publish original short fiction, reprints, excerpts, essays, and lots of book reviews like these. We are able to do this, like I said, through the kind generosity of our Patreon supporters. Oh, and our first anthology is out. You can buy it at all the major bookstores in print and electronic form. We're currently working on editing our second year anthology, so that's pretty exciting. If you like this kind of content, support our channel. Now let us get to the books. So I've got the covers queued up. Here we go. Let's make it a little bit bigger so you guys can see that. There we go. Nice and zoomed. So this is Interstellar Mage by Glynn Stewart, the first of 3 books in the Starship Mage Red Falcon space opera series. The other books are $2.99 each, and the entire series is in Kindle Unlimited. For those who don't know, Kindle Unlimited is you pay $10 a month and you read all the books you want. It's kind of like a Netflix for books. I'm a member. This is not sponsored. I just really love the program because if you read more than 2 books a month, it's really worth it. It's especially great for new authors who might not be in your local library. Okay, so I read this book and I do like space operas. I like kick-ass female protagonists and I like magic. So I have high hopes for this book. It combines everything I like. And the protagonist's name is Maria. Also a good thing because, you know, that's my name. So she's a mage that was in the Navy. She served for 10 years and then got kicked out because of a pretty bad mistake she made. And she has magical powers. So she's a kind of a military mage kind of person. And she's got magic abilities and a whole bunch of magic tricks on top of that, like a ring that can detect drugs or poison. And so she's in a bar looking to pick up a guy to spend the night with, so she doesn't have to pay for a room that night, so she gets a free place to sleep. And he tries to roofie her, and she's really annoyed about this because she was gonna go sleep with him anyway. You know, she says the bartender kicked the guy out, and the bartender warns her that she's running out of suckers. And he suggests that she find a starship to serve on. Half of them would be happy to hire her, even if she's been kicked out of the Navy, because of her skills and experience. But she's like, nah, her plan is to save enough money to go back to Earth, where she's going to drink herself to death on a Brazilian beach.
Or yay! Yay! Finally, a protagonist I can understand.
Somebody you can identify with. Or maybe she'll stay on Tau Ceti, where she is now, and drink herself to death right there, saving herself, you know, the price of a starship ticket.
And getting more whiskey. Getting more.
Then someone shows up to offer her a job, and during that whole process, he recaps her whole history, so we get some backstory in a very unnatural sounding kind of dialogue. But we learned that what happened was that the captain of a ship was out on shore leave, and she took command of the destroyer, and rushed off to tangle with some pirates, and it didn't go well. So they kicked her out. But now the Martian Interstellar Security Service needs her help. They want her to go undercover to protect a merchant ship because they think that she's somebody who wants a cause, something exciting and interesting to live for. Then we switch to the point of view of David Rice, the merchant ship's captain. He's just received a new, larger ship as in repayment for something that happened previously. And because I guess he needs a new ship and somebody gave him one. And it's much larger. He needs to hire 400 additional crew members, and he wants at least half of them to have real Navy experience. Also, he needs mages. Mages are what make faster than light travel possible. So I'm guessing that this is the cruise ship that she's going to serve on. And I'm a little worried about the fact that we're switching points of view. It could be that we're going to have an exciting story told from multiple points of view, or it could be that they're going to end up romantically involved with each other. I'm really, really hoping it's just an exciting story with multiple points of view, but I have a feeling they're going to end up together. But aside from the potential romance, which I'm not a fan of, the book feels pretty old-fashioned. It starts out a little slowly, and the character descriptions have this weird 80s kind of feel to them in terms of how the author refers to gender and race. Like, he points out that somebody who's Asian has the Asian eyes. Like, you know, he's not pointing out that everyone else is a white person and has white eyes. Why would you point out that somebody looks Asian and has like Asian looking eyes? So it's a little creepy. The book came out in 2017, so I guess you could put it down to age, but other than that, it's very readable, it's fun. I do plan to stick with it this weekend. And maybe if the author does an edit of the book, that this is something that they could look at, but it's pretty much minor quibbles, and I don't really have too big a problem with it. Next we have Crossing Over by Paul Clayton, a standalone dystopian sci-fi book. The author is new to the list, but is not new to Amazon. He's got several other sci-fi books and short story collections under his name. And ROMEL, you read this book. What did you think of it?
I liked it because I think I'm leaning to my strength in dystopia. But this is I wouldn't categorize it as a dystopian book. I would categorize it as a book in a dystopian setting. So it's a pretty straightforward story. Basically, basically the world's gone amok, and this guy is hauling hauling truck to get out of Dodge, which is America, and he's looking to take his wife and family across the border to the Great North, Canada, where the buffalo moose still roam. And basically, it's that kind of story. It's very straightforward, very continuous, so you know where it's going in terms of he does this, he does this, he does this. So it's a very easy read because of that. It flows very naturally, and you don't switch into multiple points of view. So it's basically I would categorize it as a shorter American version of The Death of Grass, where they have to get out of Dodge and they head up, and that's it. I mean, pretty readable. There are some things which I found quite funny, like from a plot point of view. But I don't know if you want me to say it, because I know sometimes I kind of, I'm a little bit critical of plot holes. So but it's a decent read. I read through about 40% of it. I'll finish it off. You know, it's all right. I mean, I enjoyed it. And that's about it. What? If you want me to say the plot holes, I will. But
No. You don't need to go into it. All right. So, yeah. So it sounds more like a post-apocalyptic novel rather than like a dystopian novel.
well, America is basically crashing, and some people are just heading out. So there's they don't really say what caused this whole great upheaval, but there's some kind of two fractions of America are basically arguing with each other about something. I'm not too sure what yet. There's a group called the Minutemen and another one I think called the Liberty.
So it's a political collapse as opposed to an environmental one or an EMP blast or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty. It's what I like about it is that how it was written. It's very, for someone who's used to this genre, you can speed through the book, and you'll pretty much get through it. I mean, I suppose where I've reached up to. I'm gonna reach probably a little bit more action, but yeah, it's nice enough.
All right. Okay, next we have Come What May by Kevin Lee Swaim. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys. There you go. The first of 5 books in the Sam Harlan Vampire Hunter Urban Fantasy series. The other books are $4 to $5 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. So, I'm a big fan of urban fantasy, and from the cover and the description, I was thinking that this may be something like the Dresden Files. But it's a little slower. It's a little more depressing in tone. It's not as snarky or funny. And I do like my books with a little bit of snark and humor in them. So the story begins with Sam Fisher. I guess it's the same Sam from the subtitle. So Sam Fisher is 27. He wakes up next to his perfect wife in his perfect Ohio home. He's perfectly happy about his life and his perfect daughter. We get a lot of description about how wonderful everything is and how sexy his wife is and the whole history of his house and how they met. A lot of backstory about how everything is just wonderful. Then he leaves for work at the diner he owns, which is also wonderful. He loves running it, and he loves the community it brings together, except that the economy is getting tight and prices are going up for the supplies, and some of his customers are getting old and dying off, and the whole town is dying out. And he has to put in 14-hour days to make ends meet, and his wife works for free. So I guess
So he's not happy.
it's not all perfect. And so I didn't like this beginning. So first of all, it didn't have anything really going for it. The fact that his life was perfect before did not really endear me to him. I hate people with perfect lives. And then finding out that he's bad at running the diner, because he's like too nice, also didn't really endear me to him. He kind of like seems to be like stumbling along, he kind of fell into this life and things kind of just happened to him. He feels very passive to me. Then a couple of weird pale strangers in large sunglasses enter the diner and they smell funny. And then like weird stuff happens. There's a flash of light, a smoke, the strangers vanish, and 20 minutes have passed on the clock, but they don't remember the time passing. And so just something that's like really weird that happens. And that night, after work, he goes home and he gets to his house and he hears screaming and there's blood smeared on the floor. He goes inside, and in the kitchen, there's a stranger at the kitchen table, and he's got blood on his face, and his wife is dead on the floor, and his daughter is there standing still, frozen. Then another stranger comes in, forces him to sit down. They want to know what happened to the 2 visitors to his diner earlier that day. He doesn't know what they're talking about, and he doesn't remember anything, and so they threaten to kill his daughter. Then a third man shows up, an old man with a black leather eye patch, a leather duster, and a shotgun, and there's a battle, And the old guy starts killing these vampires because, they're vampires. And then Sam himself kills one of the vampires, but more vampires show up and they kidnap Sam's daughter and disappear with her. Sam is like, oh my God, what's going on? And the old man's like, we gotta get out of here because the police believe that it's vampires. They're gonna blame you. Throws Sam over his shoulder and leaves for Iowa. So Sam is like super passive through the whole thing. Iowa, yeah, that's where the old guy lives, in Iowa. So it seems that the old man was trying to protect Sam and his family from the vampires, but he messed up. It's a pretty grim beginning. Sam's a little bit of a passive protagonist, and I miss a kind of a sense of humor. I like my urban fantasy with a little bit more snark. So I don't think I'll be sticking with it, but I think fans of the TV show Supernatural might like it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, then we have the book Found Objects by Christine Pope, the first of 6 books in the Paranormal Penny Mysteries Cozy Mystery series. There's the cover. The other books are $1 to $4 each, but they're all in Kindle Unlimited. Carla Nordland read this one. And the story is about Penny Briggs, who's starting over after a messy divorce. And she takes a job in Albuquerque as a prop shopper for a film crew. So she's always had the knack of finding the perfect object, whether it's for a film set or for her friends or family. And on her first day, a pair of prop glasses mysteriously go missing. So she goes to a nearby antique shop to purchase a replacement. And there's a particular pair of glasses that just calls to her, and she brings them back to the set. And one of the actors complained that they make him feel dizzy and disoriented. She tries them on and sees a vision of a canyon. And over lunch, another crew member tries them on. And the crew member, Joy, tells Penny that these glasses must be hexed and gives her the name of her cousin, who's a witch and runs a magic shop in town. So Penny refuses to believe that magic might be real, but decides to visit this cousin anyway. And the cousin looks at the glasses and says that they're a magical object and that Penny is a lodestone. She's like a magnet for magical objects. She denies that she has any power, but remembers that she's always had this knack for finding the perfect objects, and it feels like things are calling out to her. And the cousin says that these glasses must have a story that they want to tell her. So it's a slow burn, contemporary fantasy, cozy romance kind of story, says Carla. And it's going to be a quick, fun read. She likes books that are more fast-paced, a little bit more active. So she felt her attention flagging a little bit because there's a lot of backstory and Penny's history in the first couple of chapters. And she says it kind of feels like a coming-of-age story to her, where she starts a new life and discovers her full magical powers. But for those looking for a slow, cozy read, this could be a perfect weekend book. And I actually like the sound of it. I like cozy magical mysteries. Then we have Throwing Shade by Deborah Wilde, the first of 7 books in the Magic After Midlife, cozy magical mystery series. The other books are $5 to $7 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. The author has been on this list before. So like I said, I love cozy magical mysteries with middle-aged amateur sleuths, and this book does fit the bill. The protagonist, Miriam, is a librarian for a legal firm, a single mom. She really needs the job, no matter how annoying some of the lawyers get. She's fun. I love her snark. I love her banter with her colleagues, not the stupid lawyers, but her like normal colleagues. Then her best friend invites her for drinks after work, and I love their relationship as well. And her best friend flakes on her, probably losing track of time while working at her art studio. So Miriam just has a couple of drinks by herself, meets a handsome lawyer and flirts with him. then says goodbye and heads home. But the guy follows her and attacks her and pulls her into the alley. She fights back, she kicks him, she sprays him with maximum strength hairspray. She's in Canada, so they're not allowed to carry mace there, apparently. And then the guy gets really mad, and he makes the can of spray fly out of her hand without even touching it. And then he starts to choke her. She's on the verge of passing out when she opens a locked door inside her mind. So she's kept it closed for most of her life, but she's desperate. She's on the verge of being killed. So she opens it up, and now she's able to use magic to fight back. And it's a very cool magical effect. She has a magical shadow that can fight on her behalf, and it can hide her. So it hides her from this guy, and he leaves. So I like the beginning very much. I like Miriam and her friends and her teenage daughter, and I like that feeling of ominous foreboding that now that she's used her magic, what's going to happen next? So I'm looking forward to reading further. All right, next we have the number 5 book on today's top 10 list, The Island by Sean Platt and Johnny B. Truant. It's a standalone book of epic fantasy and horror. Usually it's $1, but today it's free. This book is not in Kindle Unlimited, so grab it now. The authors have been on this list before. Terrence Smith, our assistant fiction editor, read this book. And he says it draws heavily from classical mythology. It's about 2 gods isolated on a present-day island where they're constantly at war and bickering with each other. The first god is, his name is Gerd. He's just trying to make it through the day. The second god, Atticus, just keeps creating obstacles and annoyances for him. Terrence says that the dynamics between the two reminded him of the Christmas specials with the heat miser and the snow miser. They're always locked in conflict for all of eternity, complete opposites, and they drive each other mad. And then we go back in time to the story from the past involving a prince, a princess, and a wicked stranger. And so it the story goes back and forth between time periods, which can make it a little hard to understand what's going on. But eventually kind of becomes a little clearer what's going on. And Terrence says that people who like classical mythology or paranormal shows like Supernatural should check it out. He says he really got into this book. All right, next we have Alondra by A.L. Hawke, a prequel to the Hawthorne University Witch fantasy series, which has 3 books in it. Those other books are $4 to $5 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. And the author has been on this list before. So I'm not the target audience for these kind of books. Harry Potter aside, I hate stories set in magic schools, and I hate teenage drama. And this book has lots of drama. Liam is a freshman at Hawthorne University. He doesn't have any friends and doesn't think he belongs there, except there's one girl he likes, Alondra, a sexy goth. And he's this whiny kid. He's full of self-pity. As the book starts, he's walking by himself in the woods at night when he sees a couple of girls running through the bushes. They're stark naked, and their faces are smeared with something. And he thinks, he thinks they're high because they're laughing. And they're laughing, and they keep running, and then they disappear in the woods again. College. He keeps walking, and he comes across a bonfire with about a dozen girls standing around it. And they're laughing. Sorry, they're not laughing. They're wearing hooded black clothes, and there's a naked girl in the center tied to 2 giant wooden beams in the shape of an X. And so he hides in the bushes and spies on them instead of leaving them alone to enjoy their naked rituals. So he comes off as a little creepy. Oh yeah, all those other girls are naked under their clothes. The girls sacrifice an animal, then one of them takes off her cloak, and it turns out that this one is a guy, not a girl. And he starts having sex with a girl who's tied up. And it's enthusiastic sex. I mean, nobody is an unwilling participant here. And so I guess Liam was perfectly happy spying on naked girls, but doesn't want to spy on a naked guy as much. So he decides to get out of there. And while he's running away, he runs into the first two naked girls from before. They jump him, rip his shirt off, and drag him back to the fire. So everyone stops and looks at him, and he recognizes one of those girls in the hood. It's the goth that he has a crush on, except that she's naked under the cloak. And she recognizes him too. Then she says something in Latin, and he falls asleep. And then he wakes up in the library, and he doesn't know what happened. And then the next day, he goes to class, and Alondra is in the same class with him. And she's passing him notes and says she's sorry and she can explain. And I don't know, I think Liam's the one who should be apologizing and explaining. He's the one sneaking around and got caught. But she's the one who feels bad about it. And Liam comes off as kind of bitter and entitled. Then the professor interrupts their note passing. He's talking about the psychology of a serial killer. The girl, Alondra, answers the professor's questions and seems to be caught up on everything. And Liam is like totally lost and doesn't know what to say. So he's a jerk and he's not that smart. Yeah. So after class, they're walking outside and she wants to explain what happened. So she wants him to come to her house so that she can explain. And she goes on and on about how she wants him to come to her house to explain instead of just explaining to him. And that's a little annoying, all this drama. And then he goes to her house that night. And there's a whole bunch of drama about the dinner that she makes and how she's dressed and all that stuff. A lot of buildup. So I'm just too annoyed by it. I didn't wait around for the explanation of what she was doing out there with a bonfire because frankly, I don't think she needed to give one. She wants to be naked at a bonfire. So she's naked at a bonfire. Why does she have to explain anything? Anyway, if you do want to know why she was naked at a bonfire, pick up the book. It's also an interesting change of pace because the books in this genre tend to be told from the girl's point of view instead of the guy's point of view. So aside from the fact that the guy's annoying, that's pretty interesting. So check that out. Next, we have Praying for Rain by B.B. Easton. The first of 3 books in the Rain dystopian sci-fi series. The other books in the series are $6 each, but they're all in Kindle Unlimited. So it's a female teenage protagonist. Not my favorite genre. It's a dystopian romance. My 2 least favorite words. I hate dystopian stuff. Sorry, ROMEL. But I get enough dystopian in the news every day. I don't want to have it in my fiction too. But nobody else volunteered to read this book, so it's on me. If you want to help us read these books, email me. My email is in the description box below. All right, so we start out with Rain sitting in the booth of a burger restaurant. It's April 23rd. The doors burst open. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse ride in, and carnage ensues. Body parts are flying. Women, children screaming, heads rolling, the whole thing. Rain hides under a table, but they find her, and then she wakes up screaming. It's only April 20th. But she's been having the same nightmare every night for a whole year. In fact, everybody has. Everybody on the planet has been having the same nightmare. Nobody knows why, and everybody is freaking out. People are panicking. Her boyfriend has left. He decided to spend his last few weeks on Earth back home with his family in Tennessee. Supplies have been running low because gangs have taken over grocery stores. Gas stations are closed. The streets are full of abandoned cars. Your typical post-apocalyptic kind of setting, except the apocalypse hasn't even happened yet. So she decides to go to that burger restaurant that she was dreaming about. And a brawl breaks out because she has some meds in her pocket, her dad's meds, and people notice them. And a hot guy pulls her out of there after she's been beaten up a little bit. So he kind of saves her. And she decides to let him kidnap her. So she gets on his motorcycle, and the hot guy is on a mission. He needs to find food and supplies. And he uses Rain and her stolen bottle of pills and trades them for food and supplies from a local gang-run grocery store. So I don't like either of these two characters. The setting is pretty grim. Everyone's panicking, thinking they're going to die, and are turning on each other. I might enjoy it if it was a movie, but in a book, it just makes me really anxious to read it. So I'm going to skip it. But if you like this kind of thing, check it out.
It's interesting, you know, because what you're saying is in this dystopia, gangs have become responsible shop owners and entrepreneurs.
No, they're demanding like that people give them like medicines or and if
Their price budget.
or they're trading supplies for sex. So Rain expected to be raped when that motorcycle guy took her to the store, and she was kind of like freaking out a little bit. Yeah, so not a pleasant story.
Hope
All
she
right.
gets it.
Let's go into the next one. Another dystopia. Oh my God. When will it end? So this is The Last Homestead by Marie Wilkens, a standalone book of EMP survival. So an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, is a blast from a solar flare or a nuke, and it takes out all electronics but leaves people untouched. So animals, people, any living thing is perfectly fine, but anything electrical gets fried. So the author's been on this list before a couple of times. And Alex read this. He's our news editor, and he says this was his favorite EMP book yet. There's a lot of backstory for the main character. It's easy to feel a sense of connection to her. And he loves the plot setting and the in-depth storytelling. So the book starts with a clip from a newspaper article warning about a coming solar storm. So there you go, solar storm. And in the second chapter, we meet Sarah, who's a corrections officer in Florida. She takes 6 weeks off every year to go visit her parents in Maine, where she helps them harvest crops and run a roadside stand. So she calls her parents, lets them know everything's fine. She'll be coming up in 2 months for a visit. And then over the next few chapters, you get more backstory on her, why she became a corrections officer, and how one of the inmates in the prison was wrongly convicted, and he's about to be released by a judge after many years of being locked up. Then at the end of chapter 5, finally, we get the EMP blast, and electricity goes out, and the story really gets going. But, unusual for the genre, all hell does not break loose. The guards continue doing their jobs. The prisoners do not go on a crazy murder spree. Alex says that he's never read a prison-based EMP book where the inmates don't go nuts and seek revenge on the guards immediately. So he really liked that weird plot twist there. And he really liked the way that the book delved deep into character development. And he was pleasantly surprised that the prison had protocols in place for a power outage, like a prison should, and didn't descend into total madness immediately. And he says he's going to keep reading this one. Finally, we get to the #1 book on today's list, the #1 bestseller on Amazon's free sci-fi and fantasy bookshelf, Colony 1 by Tarah Benner, the first of 5 books in the Elderon Chronicles science fiction series. The other books are $4 each, but they're not in Kindle Unlimited. N.C. Nebertovsky read this one. And he himself writes space operas, so this is his genre. He says that this book is a gritty, near-future action story for fans of Jim Butcher and Michael Williamson. A former soldier named Jonah Wyatt takes a gamble in the Space Force, where he's hired to lead a crack team of space commandos. Except they turn out not to be commandos, but a bunch of computer specialists. And one of them is an investigative journalist. So what he thought was going to be an exciting military opportunity turns out to feel more like banishment. On the plus side, they're stationed on Elderon, the first human colony. But then one of the team members gets an anonymous tip that there's something wrong in the colony, and she starts digging up dirt. And Jonah, one of the our protagonist, finds evidence of impending sabotage. So it looks like it's going to get interesting for him. So the story is full of technology and kind of noir feel. It's fast-paced. There's espionage, intrigue, and action. Her characters all feel very much like they're individuals, but they don't wallow in self-pity. The dialogue is short and choppy, but it meshes seamlessly with the cyberpunk vibe. Nick says the world building is strong. You got the flavor of iconic modern locations like New York City, but in a very believable future versions of them. There are Russian oligarchs and cyber attacks and digital currency. He says it's a very believable and compelling future of the world as it might be. He says that if you enjoy fast-paced thrillers and cyberpunk, you'll enjoy diving into Colony One. So there you go. Those were our 10 books that we reviewed today. If you have read any of them or plan to or have other books to recommend for us, please let us know in the comments below. All the links to the books are in the description. And I want to thank very much our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. We wouldn't be here without you. All right. So thanks, Romel, for joining me today. And I'll see you and everybody on next Friday, same time, same YouTube channel.
Okay, great.
Bye-bye. And have a great weekend.